the producers are now looking at just holding on to their silver and not selling it into the market, saying, well, we'll wait for higher prices. They're coming, so let's just hang on to it. And so they're almost forcing the hand a little bit on the COMEX, saying like, we're not going to deliver at these prices. So I think with the big short that's happening with silver, those guys have to be really nervous right now.
Hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics. And certainly as the smoke is steaming out of the COMEX and LBMA complex, a lot to talk about in the silver world these days. And fortunately today I am joined by Keith Anderson of Golden Opportunities, one of my new friends who knows how to dig up the gold and silver. And Keith, it's a pleasure to have you on in here. And as we welcome you in addition to sharing how you're doing, you can let people know about the new name change coming to the company that has the magic word in it. So how are you, Keith?
I am excellent. Feel honored to be on your show today, Chris.
Well, it's a pleasure. And I hear Golden Opportunities, you actually just bought a big silver block, or not block, probably not the right word, but a big silver property. And you're going to be changing the name because you'll have a lot more silver going forward. Is that right?
That is correct. We did a deal with a company called Mirasol. They're a project generator. We signed a definitive agreement and raised $2 million, was announced last week. And we're taking on what's called the Virginia Silver Project down in Argentina, Santa Cruz province of Argentina. So it's primarily a silver play. So we thought with the name Golden Opportunity, maybe we should be switching that up, sort of show what we're actually all about now. And so we got a name change. It'll have something to do with silver in the name, and that should hopefully be in the next week here.
Yeah, and perhaps maybe one day on one of those trips to Argentina, you'll need a smart-ass YouTuber who can talk about silver and tell the locals. Although I guess it's been interesting from some of our conversations, it seems like you've been learning a lot of interesting things about the silver market. And I guess perhaps to start, silver was $50 in 2011. We've had infinite money printing and debt since then, and now the price is $17. So why would anybody ever want to consider even touching the silver market or being any part of it, Keith?
Yeah, there's so many great aspects about silver that I see, and especially since reading your book, because it's really opened my eyes and I've looked a lot more into silver and what's really going on. And, there's so many different things right now, like as far as even like gold silver ratio, things like that are so out of whack. With a lot of the guys in your book that you interviewed was almost a year ago. It was the silver ratio was around 80-1. And you said, and that's going to tighten maybe down to even 40-1. Well, here we are a year later and it's about 100-1. So, I mean, you got that is way out of whack right now. And I mean, what did you say? Like a couple of in your book was for probably a couple thousand years, the ratio stayed at around 10 or 15-1. So things are right out of line right now.
Yeah, I was surprised by that. I was downloading Peter Schiff's Silver Report. I think it was during the process of making the book, and he had this chart where you see, I mean, it was like watching paint dry. The thing was just flat for a couple of hundred years, and then, and what else happened in the early 1900s? Oh, is that when the Fed came along? I wonder if there could be any connection there. But then, yeah, it just jumps all around. Of course, like you point out, long-term fundamentals doesn't always divert right the day that we figure it out. So has gone higher. Although interesting that we've seen, if you're actually buying physical gold and silver, the prices you'd actually pay for a gold eagle or a silver eagle ratio there, I believe last I checked was in the 70s or 80s. So we're seeing some of that play out now where there's the paper price and, people are starting to say, all right, I want actual metal, not COMEX contracts.
Well, it seems to be quite a disconnect for sure. And I mean, it's like when you talk about the physical, the price that it's at, I mean, I'm not sure if it was one of your interviews I was listening to, but the producers are now looking at just holding on to their silver and not selling it into the market, saying, well, we'll wait for higher prices. They're coming, so let's just hang on to it. And so they're almost forcing the hand a little bit on the COMEX, saying like, we're not going to deliver at these prices. So I think with the big short that's happening with silver, those guys have to be really nervous right now. And the lack of supply, like how can it go anywhere but up from here? So it's the tightening of the supply, the increasing demand, like we were talking about, was the open interest on the COMEX, and then the money that's flowing into the ETFs and stuff. I mean, it just seems like the demand is rising like we've never seen. And even like you said, your subscribers, what, up 1,000 in a week? So it's people are paying attention. It's coming.
Yeah, I think also, no one has to take your word for it. They don't have to take my word for it. I mean, just watch Powell talk, watch him on 60 Minutes. You don't even have to watch that. Just look at what they're doing, where we're already doing unlimited QE and now a new, I don't know what's bigger than unlimited, but
That could be bigger.
I mean, I guess we'll find out. But I think that's the thing. And to me, it seems maybe like they're, I don't know, I guess to be a politician or a banker, there probably is a level of arrogance where it's like, well, you're too stupid to figure it out. But I think people are figuring it out and going into gold and silver.
Like, no. Yeah. And I mean, we've seen silver, what is it, up over $400 year on year sort of thing, right? Silver is pretty flat. Like, I mean, it's been sort of 15 to $17 now for what, probably 4 or 5 years. It hasn't really, where gold really started a couple years ago. And then really in this last year, I mean, shit, we're up year on year is over $400. So, I mean, it's been a pretty significant move, and just such low sentiment right now in silver. It has been, where it's now starting to pick up. I see, it's been, I think that's why the deal that I've done with Mirasol in my company, Golden Opportunity, I think I've got the best deal ever for what I have, because the sentiment was so low, and these guys were looking for, somebody to join them and to spend some money on the property and to do a deal with. So I think with the low sentiment was perfect timing for us. And now the sentiment, especially even the COVID thing, I mean, it's all the reasons for gold and silver to go up before COVID have just been like extrapolated. Now it's like way bigger, way more of a reason for it to go up now with the printing of the money and everything like that. So I'm looking, like, if I go back 6-7 weeks ago, I couldn't have raised, $100,000. Fast forward to about last week of April, we did in 2 weeks, we did $2.2 million financing. I mean, it was gone, and we could have done way more than that. So the appetite for silver and silver deals has really picked up here in the last 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear. I've heard that a lot of the other folks that I have on the show that run mining companies, that has been a better environment. It's interesting that you've seen that better environment without the price of silver really going up. I mean, it's still under the $19 or so it was at before Corona. So we know how, especially in the West, people like to trade on momentum, buy after something has already moved. I'm curious, once gold is going through 1900 and 2000, what do you think is happening to silver as that's occurring, Keith?
Well, I think it's like, number one, like I said before, the shorts have got to be getting really nervous right now, because just if you look at the gold silver ratio, if you look at, once they start to cover those shorts, you've got a lot of technical guys that are looking at that $20, $21. If it breaks through that, it's self-fulfilling. And then it just takes off, because you've got all those guys that were buying it because of the technical reasons. You got the short covering, guys buying on technical, and then you got your momentum traders. And I think, as Jeff Clark, I said before, is it's an itsy bitsy teeny tiny market. So when that money starts to flow in, who knows where it goes? Like, I think $50 is definitely not out of the equation right now. And that's hit that, what, back in the 80s, almost hit it back 2011. So, that could be, the next target for it, I think.
Yeah, and you mentioned one of the reasons to suggest that ratio is going to, decrease quite a bit, because you mentioned some silver companies withholding production. First Majestic had an announcement, I believe it's 2 weeks ago. And what I think is interesting, and it's great to have your perspective on this today, you're running a company that's going out digging this stuff out of the ground. It comes from somewhere. And I would say our conversations have been similar to a lot of the other silver miners that I talk with, where I think people have felt for a while something is off, but especially I think more and more people are realizing, wait a second, there's something funky about this system. And if Keith Neumeyer's thinking it and you're thinking it, and I've talked to other silver miners who are thinking it, at some point you would think maybe that also has an impact on what's happening.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, once you start tightening up the supply. And the other thing, Keith Newmar, I think it was him that was talking about it, was some of the deals when you talk some of the companies that need a lot of silver, the consumers, such as like Samsung's, Apple, stuff like that. They're trying to do deals directly with silver producers just so that they get a supply chain that they can rely on, you know. And so it is interesting, you know, the guys that are using it for the industrial uses, they're worried about their supply. And what Keith said was, he's asked some of these guys eye to eye, well, what's your consumption on a yearly basis? They won't say it. They're terrified. They don't want to let anybody know what the actual consumption levels are, because then you're going to be trading against the traders and the fund managers. And, you know, so it's a tight market, tight supply. And I think the demand is just growing and growing, you know.
And Keith, is there any outside possibility that perhaps any executive from a large industrial silver consumer could have been perhaps watching Jerome Powell on 60 Minutes, or not even watching it, but just seeing the unlimited QE? Because if we see what's happening on a retail level, and again, this morning I talked with Andrew McGuire, he got into what's happening on the wholesale level. I don't know, maybe Samsung's not watching our show today, but I mean, they're not, it's like the whole system counts on everybody being a complete moron. And I wonder, gee, if I were running one of these large industrial users, at least the conditions for some of them to say, I mean, what if they know what you know, or just hear what you've shared today? Isn't it at least feasible to imagine that you could see that on that level at some point as well?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, you know, you brought it up in your book and stuff, is the people like Samsung, the people that are using it for cell phones, things like that. It's a very tiny amount. So whether silver's $30, $60, $70, it's not going to affect the cost that much for what they're using it as. For when you're talking, you know, each phone has a very small amount. So it's not that the phone's going to be now, it's, you know, instead of $1,500, they're now $2,500. So the amount of silver, but they need it. You can't build these without it. So if their cost base isn't going to be that much affected by a move in silver, I mean, you look at some of the other precious metals where they've gone because of the industrial demand. Silver's got a huge, solar panels, you know, anything like you said, going green is going silver. So, I mean, the demand for silver just keeps on climbing and climbing. And then you put the monetary side into it, which is coming. Who knows? I mean, well, I'm pretty excited about it, as you can tell. You know, I think it's going a lot higher, and I think you do as well.
Yeah, and we've always heard about, you know, there's the industrial demand, and there's a lot of people that thought, well, what really sparks when silver moves is when you have investment demand kick in, which makes enough sense. Not that that has to be the way it unfolds, but that, okay, that's how we've seen it unfold before. And then all of a sudden you have everything that's happened in the last year, and you can just look at the inflows into SLV and the other silver trusts. And it's like, sometimes, you know, we get, you know, this much went in this week, but then you take a step back and we see 240 million ounces has reportedly been added into those trusts in the past year. That also doesn't count the actual investment demand of how many people are on a retail level buying gold and silver. But just 240 million ounces a year. This is a market that was already running a deficit last year, according to Silver Institute numbers.
Yeah.
And okay, now we've had things skewed a little bit because certainly with Corona, you know, the demand is down. Yet I've seen estimates of as much as 50% of the supply offline. But just adding in 240 million into SLV, if you're already in a market that was reportedly a deficit last year, does that add up to you, Keith, or am I missing something here?
No, not at all. I mean, it is, yeah, where are they getting it from? Where's it coming from? And you listen to Sprott from last Friday, and he's talking about, you know, what was it, $12 million or 12 million ounces were taken out on Thursday. And he goes, then you put that into 250 trading days of the year, that's like 3 billion ounces. He goes, where are we getting it? We only produce 900 million ounces a year. So where's it coming from? Like, so I think the paper stuff, there's going to be some issues down the road here for sure. You know, so
it makes sense. I mean, I talked to everyone outside of Santa Claus about trying to figure out where the metal's coming from. All right, maybe I can't see it, but here's Eric Sprott, who's funding the majority of the mining community at this point, and he can't figure it out. You're actually doing deals and projects. So it just, I mean, if nobody can seem to add up where these numbers are coming from, maybe then that does support that something is happening here, like you point out. And I think something is. It's just, it's taken a while, so it's in slow motion yet. Another thing I'd like to run by you.
Okay.
A lot of people are into silver, into gold, and then once they get into that, they see that you can get leverage from the mining stocks. Given all of your experience, what could you pass along from what you've learned that, when people go, hopefully we have some of the conferences and the shows again, but just some, any guidance or thoughts when people are looking at different projects as someone who's seen it from the inside? What are some red flags to watch out for? What are good things to check for just in evaluating an opportunity like that?
Well, I guess you have to look at especially money starts to flow in first into the sector, right? So you've had gold move, silver still hasn't moved. I don't know why. You're almost seeing the silver equities are doing much better than the price of silver. And I think it's kind of people are foreseeing what's going to happen with silver. So I better get into some good equities because I think the leverage side on the equities are probably greater than what it almost would be on the silver itself. And so you've got your senior sort of silver producers, silver companies, and then the next rung down, you go down into the mid caps and guys that are building a resource that have, they're already a producer, but they're still expanding on their resource and stuff. And then you come down one more rung, and that market, I think, is just starting to get going. And that's what I'm doing is, we are an exploration company purely. And we're starting off like the project that I've got right now. It's had $12 million spent on it. So, I mean, I'm feeling pretty fortunate that I'm getting in as a junior exploration company with a property that's already had 12 million in years of exploration spent on it, where they've identified, they've already got a resource right now in the indicated and inferred of 15 million ounces. So indicated resources, I think 12 million ounces at 310 grams per ton. And you got the inferred, which is about another 3 million ounces at around 270 grams a ton, I think. So it's a great starting point. We're not a miner, but we're starting on a property that's had the 12 million spent on it. We've got high priority drill targets picked out. So we know we're going to add ounces. How many ounces, we don't know until you get the drilling going. But it's, I'm pretty excited about it. I feel very fortunate to be in the position I'm in with the company and with the deal we've done with Mirasol. And it was the only reason we got this deal done, I think, is because of the low sentiment on silver. And that's why we got it as cheap as we did. But now everybody seems to be sort of opening up and sort of waking up to the price of silver and thinking this thing, well, I mean, I raised $2.2 million in 2 weeks, where if you went back even in February, it would have been before the COVID, we would have done it, but it would have been more of a struggle, where all of a sudden we came out of this COVID thing. I could have done way more. I had people still phoning me when we'd already closed it saying, how much can I have? Can I get some of your financing? So you can see there's an appetite for it. Our company being small, there's a huge leverage to it, because right now we've got an $8 million market cap. Okay. And we're starting with a 15 million ounce resource that we're going to start adding to. And we've got lots of potential down to the south, east, west. There's like vein structure. There's a lot of work and a lot of potential discovery still left on the property. So very excited to be in this situation in what could be an explosive silver market.
I think your timing could be great. And perhaps you could share a little bit about the tone of the conversations just in the process of raising money. What are the investors that you're talking to? What are they seeing in the market? Are they seeing what you're seeing? What was that like?
Well, I think it's like the people that I talked to. I mean, I had conversations. I had Zoom meetings with like David Morgan's, Brian Lundeen's. I mean, I had some pretty serious guys that I talked to that say, hey, we're coming into a silver market. You guys, I mean, we're the very risk, high risk company being, an exploration. We don't have a resource that's even mineable right now. We hope to prove up enough ounces to make it a mineable resource, but it's the potential. And when you see a market start to move one way and it looks like it's going way higher than what it's at with silver, then our company looks very attractive because of the leverage. I mean, $8 million market cap, you can go to 16, 30, 40 million pretty quick, right? So it's, people are feeling, pretty good about the price. the company's relatively new. We only started trading back in December. So we've got a fairly good structure as far as the ownership of the shares. We brought in some pretty good investors that you can look on to my webpage and you can see who those investors were. So I think everybody that was getting into is sort of thinking the same lines that you and I are. Silver's going higher. We're in a great province. We've got neighbors all around us that are producers from Newmont, McEwen. We within anywhere from 150 to 250 kilometers where we're at. Big mines that have been operational for years. So we're in a great jurisdiction. And, with where we're sitting on that property now is we're ready. The drill targets are picked out. We don't have to go and reinvent everything or anything. We just go down, start drilling and do some exploratory stuff into some other areas as well. So I think everybody's excited about the price of silver and the deal that I got. Like I got a very cheap deal with a junior exploration company. So the upside potential I think is huge. I don't want to sound too promotional, but I think it's huge, the upside for us.
Well, I'll second what you said, and I've been intrigued, and it's been nice talking to you for the last couple of weeks, getting to know you better. Especially these days, I find I look less at balance sheets, and it's almost like just find the guy who's running the company, let that guy talk, and you get a feel for their style of decision making. If someone says that they don't see any manipulation in the silver market, I don't know, maybe they're right and I'm not, but just to the degree that when you resonate with people and find you're on the same page and similar decision making goes a long way in my book. So Keith, perhaps in wrapping up, I got your website pulled up here. Maybe you can just let folks know that if what you're saying makes a lot of sense to them too, how they could find out more information, if they have questions, where to go with that and how to reach you.
Okay, well, you can go to the website. Our ticker symbol on the CSE right now is GOOP, Goop. But as far as phone numbers, anybody phone me. My number's right on the webpage. I'm ready to talk to anybody anytime. I'm an open book, and you can see there that's my actual personal cell number. I invite everybody to come to the website. If you have any questions, please give me a call. There's the presentation on the Virginia Silver Project down in Argentina to take a look at. And
where would they find the presentation if they would like to go through that?
Go back to the homepage, or you can even just go to projects. Right there. See where the corporate presentation underneath. No.
Am I click on the wrong one or?
Yeah, no, go back to the main page.
Uh-huh.
Yes. You can see underneath the advancing the high grade silver corporate presentation. Just click on that.
Right there. It was right on the home page. It took real talent to not see it popped up. Yeah, you made it even easy enough that a congressman could find it. So I thank you for that. And folks, if you'd like to get more information on golden opportunities, Keith, I'm going to say thank you again for joining me. It's really been nice getting to know you. I guess, if what should you really want in a silver rally? I guess to be friends with all the guys that know where the silver is coming from.
That's right.
So maybe we'll take a trip down there to Argentina, drink a nice glass of wine. I'll do some pull-ups. So I get my, if you need me with the shovel or the axe or something, I'll be ready to go. But it's really nice to get to know you. Thanks for telling us a little bit more about what you're doing. And we'll look forward to doing this again soon.
Okay. And just before we leave here, anybody who's listening to this and anybody who hasn't bought the book, The Big Silver Short, get out, buy yourself a copy. You will be an investor in no time. Great book. And it was just a joy going through it. It was some great interviews.
Well, I appreciate that. That's kind of you to say that. And it actually means a lot to hear someone in your position read that and then be able to implement what's in there. I know you mentioned you started feeling even more excited about your recent silver deal once it kind of came into perspective, which was the whole goal, so that if people really want to know what's going on in one unit, document or book or audio, they could get that. So thank you for the kind words and your support. I appreciate that. And yeah, I think there's good times ahead, Keith. So it'll be fun to follow along.
Absolutely. I hope to be back on your show when our stock is much higher and we're having success and silver price is on its way.
Well, we'll be looking forward to that, and perhaps not. Maybe we won't even have to wait too long. We'll see, but it'll be a lot of fun. And thanks again for making some time today.
Hey, thanks for having me on your show, Chris.